So, Svetlana Tihanovska, welcome to my presidential podcast. This podcast is a way to show to Slovenian people and foreign people personalities which do something special in their life. You are special for me. You are a face of your country and a person who cannot live in your own country. What was Svetlana Tihanovska before 1994?
Look, I was very young, to think about country, about politics. I was the ordinary girl who was growing up in ordinary family in a small city. And I remember how it was rather difficult time, it was collapse of Soviet Union and dull times. But, it was the period when I first time went to Europe. I visited Ireland on Chernobyl program. And I saw how the life can be different. We were in Belarus. We were lack of food, lack of clothes, beautiful clothes. But in Ireland, everything was on the shelves, and you saw the other world. You saw how people were smiling, that people so polite to each other, and in Belarus, people were more aggressive.
Did you even at that time started thinking about what can be changed in Belarus, what you as a person can do? I mentioned 1994, those were the days, the year when the problematic referenda was taking place in Belarus. The questions were not adopted by the parliament, and then the Belarus president Lukashenko just didn't respect the decision of the parliament. So in 1994, do you think this was the crucial time, the breakup point for your country?
The mistake of Belarusian people is that Belarusians were mostly apolitical, through all these years. And of course it's a problem of small cities, because if in Minsk, in the capital of Belarus, there were some opposition parties. In 1996, when Lukashenko destroyed parliament, there were some rallies. But people in small cities didn't know about this. We read local news and couldn't know much, and we're not interested actually. We didn't feel responsibility, for the country, because, as I said, it was difficult times, collapsed Soviet Union, people were surviving actually, and Lukashenko used this situation, promising people good life. He promised to fight with corruption, but instead he started to fight with people. He started to install his dictatorial regime step by step. People started to disappear. Political opponents. The first political prisoners appeared, and actually Belarusian people themselves allowed this to happen, because didn't have enough experience, were not too engaged, and Lukashenko used the situation. But opposing to the regime have never stopped in Belarus. The only issue that Lukashenko managed to build his personal security service, who didn't protect country, who didn't protect people, but protected Lukashenko himself, and he, changed dictatorial regime to totalitarian, absolutely, and this what we had in 2020.
If you see the period from 1990s and the period today after 2020, you mentioned this date when your husband wanted to become a president. He wanted to be on a list to be a president of Belarus. What was going on at that time, Svetlana? For you, I think that period was probably one of the most difficult ones, because after the election where Lukashenko won again, you had to leave the country.
Actually, of course, 2020 became crucial for myself. My husband in 2019 became a blogger, ordinary blogger who went from city to city asking people how do they live, what's their attitude to the regime, and he became very popular. And it's Belarusian people who asked my husband, go for presidency. You know, you're a wonderful person, you're really interested in the problems of ordinary Belarusians. And when my husband declared that he would like to participate, he was immediately jailed, because Lukashenko is extremely afraid of popular people. The same Viktor Babarika, one of the candidates. And when my husband was jailed, he couldn't apply for presidency. And the fact that I went instead of him was only out of love to my husband, to show him that what he was doing is extremely important for me, because I was also studying together with him. You know, I was also opened my eyes on many things together with him. You know, and maybe at that moment I didn't expect such support from Belarusian people, but I think that our society ripe for changes. You know, Lukashenko's regime dragged our country into the past, and our society wanted to move, you know, into the future. And Lukashenko didn't catch this moment. You know, he couldn't expect that people would vote for ordinary, housewife, because before 2020, I for 10 years was bringing up my children. You know, didn't work, wasn't involved in politics. I was absolutely inexperienced person, and Lukashenko underestimated the role of women. He underestimated Belarusian people, underestimated our desire, you know, for changes in our country. And you know, I think that if he couldn't prognose what will happen.
After that, when the elections were over, and of course Lukashenko won, you were escorted by the Belarusian army to the border with your children. How did you feel, Svetlana, at the time when you knew that you have to pack your bags and just leave the country, and husband in jail?
Actually, sorry for correcting you, Lukashenko didn't win elections. You know, he lost elections.
Yeah. He's claiming that he won, of course.
The
elections were proclaimed as not according to the standards of.
And immediately this evening, a huge rally took place in Belarus. And you know, next day after front elections, I went to Central Election Commission with my claim that elections were fraudulent. Mm-hmm. And there I was met by KGB people who told me, tried to explain me that somebody betrayed me, that I'm guilty, that people went to the rallies, and just they put me in front of choice. You are leaving your country to bring up your children, just to join my children who were already in Lithuania, or you go to jail for many years. It was an extremely difficult choice. You know, I spent with these KGB people 3 hours, because I couldn't believe that this is going on. At that moment, for 3 hours I have been hesitating. I proved to these people that we want our country to change. You know, all the people have to be released. Maybe my internal mother won that battle, because I have older son. My older son is a child with special needs, and I, felt so much responsibility for him. It was so difficult to leave Belarus, because it was also a feeling as if you're betraying, people. But I when I left Belarus for Lithuania, I thought that people will blame me that I left. But I got so much support of, or so much words of support from people of Belarus. They told me, continue where you are. It will be better than you are on freedom and can do something if you're in jail and can do anything at all. And the brutal suppression started in Belarus, and since 9 of August, thousands of people went through tortures, went through prisons in Belarus. So Lukashenko, with help of violence and support of Putin, several months in a row suppressed Belarusian movement, Belarusian uprising. People went for sabotage. People went for rallies, 500,000 rallies took place in Minsk and other cities. And with terror and tyranny, he managed to silence people down. But Lukashenko, 3 years passed at this moment, but Lukashenko didn't manage to change state of mind of people. He knows that why repressions are still continuing in our country. Lukashenko knows that as only he stops detaining people, there will be again thousands of citizens on the street. So every day 20, 30 people are being detained in Belarus as like threat to others.
Your husband is still in jail. When was the last time that you talked to him? How often can you talk to him?
Actually, he was detained on the 29th of May 2020, and since then I have never seen him. Once I had the opportunity back in 2020 to talk on phone, KGB people allowed him to call me, and since then no information. If before lawyer could attend him, just send some messages from children, from myself. So half a year I don't receive any information. Lawyer is not allowed to visit him, letters are not delivered. I don't know if he's alive or if he's in solitary cell or what is his health. Actually, somewhere in May, I suppose there were gossips that my husband died in prison, and I was shocked with this news. I could imagine that might be fake, but still, you can't stop worrying. And it was like a level of pressure on the regime from journalists, first of all, international journalists, and they showed a couple of seconds of video from jail where I saw my husband. I absolutely couldn't recognize him for several minutes because the people in prisons change a lot, especially political prisoners, because they are kept in inhuman conditions. Under constant pressure, they're being tortured without any medical treatment. And regime is keeping a lot of political prisoners in incommunicado mode because they want to ruin people's belief, that fight is continuing. They want to isolate him from any information, isolate them from lawyers, just to break them as personalities.
Svetlana Tihanovska, today, you definitely became a politician. You fight for your country through politics outside of your country. Where do you see solutions for Belarus?
So first of all, you call me politician, and I agree. I have to, to be politician, but I still have this imposter syndrome, when as if you from nowhere came into high politics and meet wonderful women, strong, powerful, and I always studied from women politicians how to behave, how to talk, how to use your power, and. I'm absolutely optimistic about the fate of Belarus. It will be free, it will be independent, but it cost us so much pain and so much tears, and our power is in unity and consistency. And I know that people of Belarus, they are united in our strive for changes. We maybe not have enough capacity because people in Belarus live like in huge prison. People who had to flee Belarus because of repressions also face a lot of problems and challenges in exile. But I see how together we are trying to overcome all the problems. And of course, we wouldn't achieve a lot without support and solidarity of our European and actual democratic partners. I see how many countries want to help us. They creating pressure on Lukashenko's regime with the help of sanctions, political pressure, policy of non-recognition of Lukashenko's regime, and supporting the Belarusian democratic forces. supporting our initiatives, supporting our NGOs, media, and supporting us in political arena. Belarusian case is very non-conventional because we like people without state. State is seized by power, and we have to build new democratic institutions. We have to institutionalize our actions, our relationship with different international organizations, like from the scratch. And with help of our democratic allies, we can be in UN General Assembly. We've
met in Munich, in Reykjavik, at the Council of Europe. So, yeah.
We are given a platform for Belarusian voice to be heard. Democratic forces are recognized as legitimate forces. People, Svetlana Tihanovska is the person who won elections as president-elect, but still, you know, we have to be very creative, very inventive, yes. You know, and sometimes I feel some fatigue about Belarusian case, and once I suppose it was Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary who told, look, we did everything we could. We imposed sanctions, you know, on Lukashenko, but nothing has changed. And I told him that, of course, you have right to say that we did everything we could. I don't have such right. I have to look for new opportunities. I have to open new doors, you know, because our people are there suffering, and you know, my children haven't seen their daddy for years, the same as thousands of other families. So it's our duty to release them, to release our country, and you know, to become member of European Union one day. It's also we made this geopolitical choice after 2020, and we have rather ambitious aims. But we step by step go into these aims.
The elections were in 2020. As far as I know, the mandate is 5 years, so you're going to have new elections in Belarus in 2025. But can you be a candidate? What are you going to do? Because in between, I think the law was enacted that the people who live abroad cannot be candidates for the president of Belarus. Am I right? Was that the law which was enacted a couple of years ago?
Belarus is the country of lawlessness. So you can't even talk about elections in Belarus when there is political desert. So, of course, Lukashenko maybe will try to hold some procedures, calling them elections, but people of Belarus, and I hope our political partners, realize that it's all these procedures are fake and farce and cannot be even accepted or perceived as legitimate. The next elections that have to take place in Belarus should be free and fair elections under observation of OSCE, when all the political prisoners are released in the atmosphere of freedom. This we can call elections. But when in atmosphere of tyranny and you know, absence of any media or political competition, you know, what elections can take place? No?
Svetlana, I'm really, really happy to hear, you know, that you try to see, and you are seeing, the light at the end of the tunnel. So you are all the time optimistic, and I wish you really all the best on this not easy journey. But allow me one more last question. What are your hobbies? What kind of books does Svetlana read? What do you do in your free time? How much free time do you actually have? I mean, you work for your country, outside of your country, all the time. I have a feeling that it's 24/7. What's on your mind? Belarus, your homeland.
Actually, I think that I can't allow hobby for myself at the moment. You know, I absolutely concentrated on what I'm doing. And, you know, you told me that I'm, you know, positive. I have to be so. I'm just maybe share my personal story. I already mentioned that my oldest son is a boy with special needs. And for 8-9 years, I had to rehabilitate him. Every day, I had to work hard, you know, to help him to socialize himself. And I didn't know during all these years if he will become like like, you know, normal person. And you didn't know where is the light of the tunnel, you know, but I knew that every day I had to work, not knowing, you know, the results. Now the situation is the same. You might be exhausted, you might be tired, frustrated, but you have to work hard every day, not allowing yourself, you know, to be happy because you can't. You know, so maybe at that moment my previous experience with sun, you know, showed me that I'm stronger than I used to think about myself, you know, and that I can. Yes, the aim is much higher, but still your consistency, you know, your strength gives you, you know, opportunity to move further, and also anger transforms into strength, transforms into energy, continue this fight. So I just, you know, when I see a book that is worth reading or movie that is worth watching, I'm just putting that I will do this maybe later, not now, I have other tasks.
Svetlana, thank you a lot. That was Svetlana Tihanovska in New York. We were both attending the General Assembly of the United Nations. I wish you personally all the best, but I wish all the best to your country as well.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.